Let me share with you specifically why I left the gay scene. We're going to focus on 3 levels of disempowerment and how this leads to no higher functioning or limited functioning. This means intellectual, psychological functioning that you need to make money, you need to stay healthy, you need to be solid and strong, because this world is not an easy place. Have you noticed? Recently, especially in 2025, things are radically changing. So you need to be around empowerment, not disempowerment. You need to be around higher functioning, not limited functioning. And so this is why I left the gay scene. If I were participating in the gay scene all the time, I would not be able to run the Big Gay Family Social Program. I would not be able to do coaching. I would not be able to do most of the things I'm doing today. They require a lot of focus, attention. They require a lot of deep thought. And so if I had a trauma, if I had anxieties, tensions, breakups, betrayals, ghosting, rejections, I would not be able to focus. I would be shaking all the time. Okay, so this is why we're talking about this, so that you don't have to shake from anxieties and fear, ending up alone, or not having lovers or friends and support system. In this video, I'm going to show you how the gay and LGBT scene leads with disempowerment and also prevents you from higher functioning, or thriving, some people call it. I call it blossoming and flowering. That there are 2 behavioral, beautiful phenomena that can happen to all of us, but they're prevented. And that's blossoming, that's flowering, that is thriving. Gay men are prohibited from thriving. So if you are depressed, anxious, if you feel down, if you feel upset, if you feel like you lost hope, this video will help you understand why it happened. And this video will also help you understand what you need to do to get your power back, to get your higher functioning back, so that you can have an amazing career, amazing life, amazing lovers, an amazing all-around gay experience. So I came out very early. I came out when I was 19, and I remember I loved being gay. I loved venturing out into the gay places and meeting all the gay men and having relationships with them. I used to love that. But things radically changed over the past 15 years. At around the same time that Grindr hit the world, the scene, the hookup apps hit the scene, and the gay scene became different. It became something very, very toxic. And I remember before that, I used to live in Chicago, and I used to hang out at Boys Town on Broadway and Halsted Street. And I used to walk around over there, hang out at coffee shops, restaurants, and I would always meet people there. Almost every time I would go out with my lover at that time or alone, I would run into people, have new friendships, have new opportunities to connect. But that does not exist anymore as a result of the things I'm going to share with you today. People or gay men have become different. They are afraid of intimacy. They're afraid of contact. They're afraid of non-sexual contact, or they don't know how to relate on a non-sexual level. There's a lot of disempowerment. There's a lot of poor level functioning that now prevents us from having loving relationships, prevents us from having amazing lives and feeling good and happy about who we are. So let's break it down. Let me share with you specifically why I left the gay scene. We're going to focus on 3 levels of disempowerment and how this leads to no higher functioning or limited functioning. This means intellectual, psychological functioning that you need to make money, you need to stay healthy, you need to be solid and strong, because this world is not an easy place. Have you noticed? Recently, especially in 2025, things are radically changing. So you need to be around empowerment, not disempowerment. You need to be around higher functioning, not limited functioning. And so this is why I left the gay scene. If I were participating in the gay scene all the time, I would not be able to run the Big Gay Family Social Program. I would not be able to do coaching. I would not be able to do most of the things I'm doing today. They require a lot of focus, attention. They require a lot of deep thought. And so if I had a trauma, if I had anxieties, tensions, breakups, betrayals, ghosting, rejections, I would not be able to focus. I would be shaking all the time. Okay, so this is why we're talking about this, so that you don't have to shake from anxieties and fear, ending up alone, or not having lovers or friends and support system. So the starting point is to recognize these 3 levels of disempowerment. And the first one is entitlement. The second one is simplicity. And the third one is victimization. So let's go one by one. The reason why this is disempowering, because this slows you down. You can do a lot more in your life if only you address these 3 things, in the gay world especially. So entitlement is the outcome of shame. We reduce ourselves to the mini-me. This is about the coming out process. We're not really fully coming out. We are only sexually coming out. We're not coming out intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. We are only coming out sexually. We can't even call it coming out because that's classical fragmentation. So this fragmentation creates a space of entitlement because our brains have not developed in the gay context. We don't understand the complexity of gay life, and therefore we are operating on very poor standards, very primitive standards. This entitlement means that gay men are entitled to have relationships without doing personal development and learning how to do it. This happens because of shame, because of the regression, because of the disempowerment that comes out of the mini-me. You will notice entitlement all across the board. The perfect example is a gay man with a large penis who's beautiful, who relies on his sex, on his beauty to get attention, but he never learns about the psychology of human connection, about the 6 stages of relationship development. He does not understand how trauma, how shame works. He does not understand that to create loving relationship, you need an emotional connection, not sexual. Sexual is good, but not enough. The emotional connection is what makes relationships long-lasting. So this entitlement projects itself in a way that the man goes out there into the world, but he is passive about relationships. He doesn't think strategically. He doesn't think intentionally. He's entitled. He thinks he's going to show up, someone will discover him, and love will begin. Entitlement is something that just runs everywhere in the world. But in the gay world, with relationships, with sex, with emotions, this entitlement is widespread. Most gay men think they will just show up and the love affair will begin. Entitlement is especially dangerous because relationships are the most complex projects in your life. There's nothing more complex than relationships. So if you lead with entitlement, you will not be willing to learn and acquire the skills of psychology to make relationships work. And this is why entitlement is so disempowering. We want to lead with humility. We want to lead with the beginner's mind, meaning that you have to choose to learn all the things that you have to learn to succeed with relationships. You have to take courses on psychology, compatibility, sexuality, how to establish a connection, how to maintain connection, how to have trust, how to have bonding, and how to have healthy sex. You have to learn how to do that. You don't get it right just because you were born. You have to acquire that. The second disempowerment is simplicity, the belief that what we are experiencing is simple, that relationships are simple, that it will just happen in some simple way. In reality, simplicity is a disempowerment because it hides the true complexity of human behavior, human patterns, human psychology. It's very complex. If you simplify it, you don't stand a chance to have the kind of gay life that is filled with love, happiness, emotions, compatibility, connection, trust, loyalty, and togetherness. Because it's so complex. There are so many factors and variables. There is the borderline personality disorder. There is bipolar. There is narcissism. There is psychopathy. There is sociopathy. There are developmental issues, underdevelopment on emotions, about sexuality, about psychosocial patterns of behavior. If you look simplistically about relationships, you don't stand a chance ever. You will be disempowered and you're going to have this pain here that we're going to talk about in a moment. Victimization is also the outcome of shame and this disempowerment. Victimization means that there is no ownership. In other words, we are entitled, we simplify everything, and we believe that someone out there is responsible for our success, our happiness, our love lives. So we are victimizing ourselves. We are waiting. We are passive. We're not strategic. We are not intentional. Why? Because we act out of the mini-me, which is the outcome of shame. Remember, shame minimizes. When you are minimized, you are entitled, you look for simplicity, and you victimize yourself because you don't have a strategy. You don't think intentionally. So this disempowerment is why I left the gay scene, because everywhere you go, you've got those patterns of victimization. Just whatever happens, happens. There's no order of socialization. There is no strategy. Most gay men just wing it. They just simply wing it. And I remember going to the bookstores, the Barnes and Nobles, and studying all the different books about relationships. And I was just blown away how complex it is. Human relationships are the most complex things you will ever have in your life. There's nothing more complex than a human romance, human relationship connection that's supposed to last a lifetime. It's very difficult to put it together. That's why most gay men are single forever. So now let's take this further. Let's now connect it to the absence of higher functioning, because this is really what kills everybody. Because this is not just about personal relationships. This is the higher functioning that you should utilize to stay healthy, to make more money, to have a business that is successful. You can do all of that, but not when you have low functioning. You have to have higher functioning. So I left the gay scene because it conditions low functioning onto everybody. So the first thing is that you are living in an arousal trauma loop. Always aroused. Have you noticed that most gay men are always aroused? And that's why they operate out of the sexual persona most of the time. And how when they do that, it always leads to trauma, because sexual persona is a fragmentation of a wholesome persona. We have emotions, we have the intellect, we have spirituality. So if we are always aroused, looking for tops and bottoms, that always will produce trauma because it's a fragmented perspective. If you are living according to arousal, if you're always aroused, you'll fragment every person that you meet. Because to you, you're going to be looking down at the genitals, you're going to be looking down at signs of attraction, and you're going to be fantasizing sexually, imagining the person naked. That's what arousal, always aroused, will do. So what that will do is that you're going to be living in a pain cycle. The pain of presence means that you're going to have a toxic relationship when you meet somebody through arousal or through these ways of disempowerment. You might have a sexually compatible lover, but you're going to be in a pain cycle. And the first pain is the pain of presence, because he won't validate you emotionally. He won't validate you spiritually. You're going to have a whole bunch of conflicts and disagreements. You might not even know he might be narcissistic or bipolar or borderline. You won't even know, because entitlement, simplicity, and victimization was part of the process. So the pain cycle will always be there because the person will be toxic. And then when you are going to be alone, you're going to have also toxic sensations, feelings, and experiences because you're operating by simplicity, entitlement, and victimization. So the pain cycle, whether you are alone or with somebody, it will be painful because the person will be toxic. And when you're alone, you're going to have thoughts of disempowerment and low functioning instead of high functioning. And that's why it will feel anxious. You will feel hopeless. You will feel despondent. You will feel like nothing is working. So to break through this pain cycle, to break through this arousal trauma loop, obviously, you have to stop entitlement. You have to understand complexity, and you have to become a creator, learn, take ownership, take charge, and then you'll realize that the pain cycle goes away. You're no longer single, and the person that you have in front of you as your lover is healthy. He loves you back, not because of the sex, but because of the emotions and the trust and the bond. And finally, this is something that just kills people just forever. Emotional disowning. This low-level functioning results from the sexual splitting, where the person assumes a sexual persona, and they act out of this sexual persona, regressing and eventually repressing their emotions. And when that happens, they are no longer their true selves. They are living out of their false self. This is so toxic. This destroys careers. This makes people unhealthy, leads to addictions, alcoholism. This leads to suicidal ideation and eventually suicides. Because if you disown yourself emotionally, it's basically you're going to a kitchen, grabbing a knife and just stabbing yourself all across your chest. And then twisting it every time that you go out there and look for people based on your arousal, based on your sexual template, instead of the wholesome template that includes emotions. So the classical example of low functioning is the kind of functioning that has no emotions. It's only sex. So you tell me, is the gay scene inviting high functioning or low functioning when you interact with people? It's all low functioning. It's all sex. It's all top and bottom. It's all sexual persona. There is no emotion there. There is no higher level emotion. So think about embracing emotions. There are levels of emotional connection. There are levels of emotional awakening. And so emotional awakening is prevented from happening in a man's life. And if you want to be an emasculated or empowered man, you have to come in contact with your emotions and learn how they work, because you can use your knowledge from this process to then develop the kind of emotions that take you to the next level in your life. And that's called the ultimate higher functioning, where you are fueled up and taken to the ultimate unstoppable way of living and being, because the emotion that is inside you is so well processed, is so well understood, that it becomes the fire for everything that you do in your life. And so this is really why I left the gay scene. I left it because if I stayed there, I would never be able to do the Big Gay Family Social Program. I would never be able to do all the coaching. And now I'm launching a straight version of the program. So none of the things I would ever want to do would be possible if I stayed in the gay scene, remained disempowered, and operated out of low consciousness. So to summarize this video, it's all about empowerment and higher functioning. If you want a proven recipe for love, you have to be empowered, and you have to give yourself higher functioning on an emotional, on an intellectual, on a spiritual level. And this is how you meet men in a healthy, loving way. And this is how these interactions are grounded and are rooted in the kind of behaviors that produce trust, produce loyalty, produce bonding. And this is what we do inside the Big Gay Family Social Program. We have a 12-step universal dating protocol that accomplishes all of that. And now you can join us and take advantage of over 10 years of research and testing of the methods that create relationships for gay men. And we have discovered that when we use structure, when we use methodology, when we use intention and strategy, relationships, something that is infinitely complex, becomes easier and easier and easier. And with some personal development, you can acquire the tools that will last with you forever. So join us at the Big Gay Family. Visit the website at biggayfamily.com and give yourself this transformation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you're new. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.